You're listening to Secret Sonics, a podcast exploring the creative side of music production. Join us weekly for honest conversations with real-world music producers and audio professionals. Hello and welcome back to Secret Sonics. I'm your host, Ben Wallach. My guest today is BTWN. BTWN is a production/writing team consisting of Zack Burke and Joseph Pepe. Hailing from East and West Coast origins, they deliver feel-good rhythmic pop tracks for artists. Their organic instrumentation, moody synths, heavy 808s, and tight drum grooves bring unique hip-hop forward direction into pop music. Recent collaborators include Joe Kirkland, Madison Love, Jay Hart, Asia Whiteacre, and many more. Based in LA, they have had recent cuts with artists such as Vincent, Lay T, Cherry Beach, and many more. Their work has been featured by Billboard, New Music Friday, Earmilk, Google, MTV, Friday Crate Diggers, Substream, and reality shows including Keeping Up with the Kardashians and Teen Mom. Former guest of the show, Mike Pepe, told me that his twin brother, Joey Pepe, has a production duo, and I reached out, and they've been gracious enough to join me on the show. So welcome, Joey and Zack.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, man. Thanks for having us, dude. This is awesome.
Yeah. Great to be here.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about your story. I guess you could go one at a time, or maybe first introduce yourself. Say like, hey, I'm such and such, so people are familiar with your voice.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Hey, I'm Joe Pepe.
Hey, it's Zack Burke.
Perfect. So why don't one at a time you guys tell us, like, in a few minutes or less, just your story of how you got started getting involved in music and then production.
Cool. Yeah. Zack, you can go first, dude.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I'm from LA originally, and both my parents are from the East Coast, but they grew up, they both love music. My dad plays piano and guitar and, would play in bands in high school and like with, church or like different gospel groups and things like that. And so music was always like in the house, and growing up, I would play in bands, and I learned guitar, and I loved like the pop punk thing, like Green Day and Blink-182. Those were like, that's what got me into writing music. And then in high school, I would, the goal in high school is like if I could play a sweaty basement show or like play the quad at lunch, that would be like, the year would be made. So that was kind of like how I got into music and writing songs, just kind of copying and understanding what the bands that I was listening to were doing. And then I went away to college in San Francisco, and then I got really into like more singer-songwriter stuff, and I'd always been listening to like John Mayer and stuff, but Ed Sheeran was really big at the time, so I really got more so into like pop and singer-songwriter writing. And then I came back to LA, and I inevitably ended up starting to work with rappers in some of my college classes, which was kind of random, and that's actually how I started producing, because they figured, oh, Zack, you play guitar, so you must know how to produce as well, but I really didn't. So I started on Logic, or actually GarageBand, that someone had like on their laptop, and then just started producing that way, just out of necessity. And because I could play I could play guitar, there was kind of like an instant credibility there. So even if I messed up, they were cool with it. And then I just kind of got better and better. And thankfully, like I think in hip hop, like as long as you have the groove there, like a lot of the beats can be fairly simple. So it was like a really nice place to start in terms of production. And then I got into writing for pop stuff and got very heavily into a good group of people in LA through ASCAP. I met a lot of people, which is my PRO. Mm-hmm. And then happened on meeting Joe through our publisher, but previously wasn't our publisher. But I did a meeting with this A&R named Ralph. Shout out Ralph, he's the best. And I met him at Durango Songwriting Conference, which is like a pop like songwriter conference. And then he invited me to their office, and Joe was actually working at Angry Mob at the time, and that's how we met. Yeah, sorry if that was really long, but I tried to make it succinct.
No, I mean, I have...
no, I love it. I love it. That was perfect. That was amazing.
Nice.
Okay, sick.
I have a interesting and long story how I got in the music industry, so I'll try to, like I said, give you the synopsis real fast of it. But I actually started playing in bands just like Zack when I was younger. Blink-182, Green Day, pop punk bands was like my thing. With my twin brother Mike, who you already mentioned, him and I used to play in bands on the East Coast all the time together in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I grew up. I was born in New York, moved to Charlotte when I was in elementary school. Started playing in bands, got super involved in the music scene in high school, in college, after college, I went and started working at the studio. Actually, I started interning at a studio, Studio B Mastering. Shout out Dave Harris. And he's the best mastering dude, the best. And he's still my mentor to this day, one of my mentors. He hired me as an intern, and then from there, I eventually got hired on staff, which was super dope. So right out of college, I was just like working at a studio, like, and it was a really nice facility, probably the nicest one in the city. So I just kind of like stumbled upon that one. And then it was cool because I got to listen to mastering so fast. So every day we're working on multiple songs or albums or EPs. So I got to hear a lot of different kinds of music and different productions, like really fast, you know, and kind of like on this really nice system and monitors, and I got to listen to a bunch of cool music. So I worked there for a while, and then by chance of an Instagram DM, I met Steve Rennie, who was the manager for Incubus. And him and I started hitting it off really well without getting the details. He needed somebody to help him out with some stuff with his brand and the band and all that jazz. And he eventually flew me out to Los Angeles twice to kind of work together. And he didn't even know I did music. He knew I was in the music industry. And then one day he asked me kind of like to listen to some stuff I'd been working on. And he was like, yo, this is sick. Like you should be in Los Angeles. Like this isn't for North Carolina, you know? So I was like, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, you know, and so he was like, well, if you want to come out here, I'll give you a job at the offices working with me. You can make your own schedule, do sessions, but I'll give you a job to get you out here, which was amazing. So 6 months later, I found myself in Los Angeles working with Steve Rennie and the band. And from there, I worked for him for about a year and a half. Steve said one day he came in, hey man, I've made a fuck ton of money in the music industry with Incubus. I'm retiring. So here's some severance, you know, pay basically. I'll be your mentor. I'll pick up your phone call anytime, but I can't do this anymore, you know? Like, I'm going to go fly planes and play golf around the country, which is exactly what he's doing today. Kudos to him. And to him, but honestly, he's family. He threw me and my wife at my wedding party. Him and his wife took me in like family, like for sure. And he'll pick up my phone call any day of the week, and him and I are super close. So after that, I got a job at Angry Mob Music Publishing, working at their studio. Because of somebody that Steve introduced me to, knew somebody at Angry Mob. Started working at Angry Mob Music Publishing. That's where I met Zach. And then eventually that turned into me not working at Angry Mob Publishing and just producing Food Time with Zach. So there you go. That's my story.
Signed to Angry Mob.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys are signed to Angry Mob?
Well, actually, technically our deal is up right now. So at this current moment, we are not signed to Angry Mob.
But
yes. But yes, we were signed to Angry Mob.
In around, yeah, it's kind of... and their family as well. It's pretty interesting how it all came about. But so sorry, just to give like a tiny bit more backstory up until where we are now. After I met Joe and we started doing sessions,
keep going.
Yeah, thank you. I ended up interning. It's just like revolving doors of interns and working places. But I ended up interning under Ralph, the guy who I believe I was talking about earlier. Ralph is the A&R at Angry Mob. And he was the person I took the meeting with. I was A&R intern with him. And then again, Joe was working there. So Joe and I even got like, we were doing sessions, but then I started like actually like working at the office 2 days a week or whatever. And then Joe and I would be like during the lunch break.
Because they had a studio and I was in charge of like booking the studio and stuff like that. So I'd be like, oh yeah, like I'm not going to book anyone during lunch because Zach and I are going to go in there and like fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and like make music.
Or
together,
even like before we were even close, I would just see Joe like on his laptop eating his lunch. Just like making plugging beats. Away, cooking up, making beats.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, damn, that's so sick. So then I started like doing stuff like that. And then I would like show Joe some stuff. And and then I stopped interning there. And then shortly after, like, just in a roundabout way, then Joe ended up stopping to work there. And then around the time about a year ago or maybe more, we signed with them. To publish us.
It's a weird Fusoku thing, you know, that happens. It's strange how things happen, you know.
But I will say, because we both worked there, we're really good at writer splits.
Yeah.
We know how to search the ASCAP and BMI repertoire. And if you don't know your IPI, we can find it out for you. So
it came with its
some advantages.
Yeah, some perks for sure.
So you guys know some of the back end of the industry that like people that are just getting started have no idea about.
Yeah, I mean, you know, honestly, nowadays producers are entrepreneurs.
I just got the...
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No. Yeah, I was just going to say that I recently bought the book, Everything You Need to Know About the Music
Don
Industry.
Passman, man.
Someone had been recently on the podcast, William Bowser. Yep. He just recommended on the
You
show
got it.
that I get it.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm getting it.
And you know what?
Amazing book.
I got
Time to learn about that stuff, you know?
I was so lucky to get a crash course because, like, working with Steve and Incubus at the top level of the music industry and just sitting there every day watching him, even though, like I said, I was, like, kind of making my own schedule and doing sessions whenever I wanted. I still had to be there, like, 25, 30 hours a week. And I'd see some crazy shit, you know what I mean? Just, like, some top-level music industry stuff. And you have to learn really fast and you start, like, understanding the industry really fast when you're thrown into those situations, you know?
Yeah. And I even ended up taking a UCLA, the college has an extension course on like legalities in the music industry. So I took a class with Dina LaPolte, who's a music attorney, amazing music attorney, who's Don Passman's mentee. So like that was like the course material. So I had to learn like just around that time too. So it's actually kind of interesting that like Joe and I are actually fairly on lock with our music business stuff.
By accident.
Yeah. But it works out.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a
Yeah.
great takeaway for the audience to like really learn up on that stuff.
Oh
and,
my gosh.
And be aware with what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
So can you tell me like how did you go from like having like kind of day jobs, you know, doing this kind of back end stuff into full time producing? Like what made that transition possible? Was there an artist? What happened?
I mean, I would say the publishing deal, really, right? I mean, it helped a lot.
The publishing deal helped a lot. I think another thing though is like we really do, like Joe was saying, like you have to be an entrepreneur in any part of any business, but specifically music producers. I think because we do so much creative stuff, I think sometimes people look down upon like going out and sending cold emails and like grinding and doing a lot of things like drumming up work for yourselves. Yeah. So even prior to the deal, we were getting paid production fees by artists, and you know we were reaching out to people to drum up business in that way. You know, a lot of the people were like friends and stuff like that. But it did help, I think, a lot because even prior to the deal, we were still making solid income.
We were still like making it work for sure. Like we didn't have other jobs. So I think, I mean, and then after that, we were hustling so hard. Then we got the publishing deal, and that helped it obviously.
And I think it helped
stabilize things. You know what I mean? But I think just hustling, man. Like it sounds kind of like a blanket statement, but it's so true. Like we were just meeting as many people as we could. And some sessions we were getting the artist finish the song and they would get a production fee from their management or label, or some we weren't, but we were just kind of going out there and hustling and making sure we made all these connections with people. And then eventually, as many people say, one thing led to another. That person knows somebody else, that person knows somebody else, and then the word starts getting around. And then you know enough people that all of a sudden you have like a good amount of like we had to start saying no to sessions. You know what I mean? Like there were just so many people hitting us up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, things snowballed at a certain point.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Exactly.
Definitely. Yeah.
You can't replace like just like doing it every day. You know, when you start doing it all the time, and that even if you have a 9 to 5, you can still do it every day. Like when I was working at Angry Mob, I was booking sessions at night. You know what I mean? Like I'd work at Angry Mob at their studio and stuff, just like helping out. And then I'd come home.
And then you do sessions from 7 to 10.
Yeah, I would do 7 to 10. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m., whatever it was that time.
Yeah.
Go do the whole grind and then have another side. I did that 5-6 days a week. You know what I mean? So it's like you always
and your
have
neighbor would be
time
like banging on the wall.
Yeah.
Shout out Joe's old neighbor.
Yeah. It was
who's
just like
definitely not the coolest person ever.
Yeah, it's not cool, but like you just did what you had to, you know? And
Yo, on Joe's last day, can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
He like blasted on Joe's last day at his old apartment. He like blasted. He had rockets like the
like 808s.
Yeah, and he was just
heavy.
blasting like heavy hip hop on his last day, just like boom, shattering the walls just to like screw with the guy.
That guy made my life like a living hell for like the last year I lived there. So I was like, fuck this.
Shout out to all the neighbors who deal with the subs.
It's a real thing.
Now I'm lucky. I have a house out in Burbank and nobody bothers me. So it's great. Yeah.
Ha. So do you guys are working out of a home studio now? Like,
yeah.
What's your setup?
Yeah. So typically, and also, you know, probably, I don't know how long you're going to be posting this, but I think we've all been living in, you know, a COVID world. So it's like, it's changed so much in the past, you know, we're in November now. Yeah. So like past 8 months. So like prior to that, it'd be a lot of sessions. We'd either be going to, you know, if an artist had a studio space or like a room somewhere, or it would be just like at our places. But now, so mostly it's just like either we're doing things so like we both have home studios. Or a lot of what we've been doing lately is just sending things back and forth. And Joe and I will do actually like Zoom sessions together.
Yeah.
Which has been great. But typically, like with all things considered, we would most rather be in the room with someone. And yes, we'll work at a home home studio and we can get it done there.
Like Zach has a home studio, I have a home studio, and honestly, for what we do,
it's perfect.
It's perfect because we're not recording live drums and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's all, and most of it's in the box, or at least we're playing live guitar and bass and things like that, or maybe some percussion. But again, you don't need a room A to record that stuff. You know what I mean? Like so,
or a control room.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So what we do is really suited for that, and it's been able to help